The massive battleship TFS Incheon's Fury established a direct communication link with every system in the prison complex. The voice of Dr. Shin Naray, now the ship's integrated AI consciousness, echoed through corridors, cells, and command centers with crystal clarity. Kalos Prime Detention Facility, this is your final warning. Commander Kim Tae-ho is a classified asset of the Terran Federation. His extraction was authorized at the highest levels of government. Interference with this operation will be considered an act of war. In his office, Warden Gorth pressed his weapon against Han So-young's temple. His hand shook with rage and fear as he activated his communication system. Human ships, this is Warden Gorth. Your commander is nothing but a prisoner here. I will execute him and every human in this facility before I surrender to your inferior species. The response came not from the ship's communication array, but from Naray's AI consciousness speaking through the prison's own systems. Somehow she had infiltrated their networks in minutes. Warden Gorth. Service record indicates 43 years of military service, 12 major battle victories, and a reputation for strategic brilliance. It disappoints me to see such an experienced officer make such a fundamental tactical error. What error? Gorth snarled. You assumed Kim Tae-ho was captured by accident. You assumed his presence in your facility was random. You assumed he was helpless. Naray's voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. Commander Tae-ho allowed himself to be captured. This entire situation was planned. The words hit Gorth like ice water. Around the prison complex, Velnar officers began to understand the horrifying truth. They hadn't caught a prisoner. They had been infiltrated by one of humanity's most elite operatives. In the mining tunnels deep below, Tae-ho moved with sudden purpose. The months of patient observation and careful preparation were over. Hidden throughout the complex were small devices he had built from scavenged parts during his repair work. To the aliens, they looked like spare components or broken equipment. In reality, they were sophisticated tools that had been gradually taking control of the prison's systems. All prisoners, listen to me. Tae-ho spoke into a communication device he produced from his coveralls. The other prisoners stared in amazement as he revealed equipment they had never seen him acquire. In 3 minutes, the power will fail in sections 7 through 12. When the lights go out, move to the emergency exits I showed you. Stay together and follow the marked routes. Choi Min-ho stepped beside him, his marine training taking over. What do you need from us, Commander? Cover the civilians. The guards will panic when they realize what's happening. Some of them will start shooting prisoners instead of defending the facility. Lee Dongwoo, the engineer, nodded grimly. I can disable the automatic lockdown systems in our section. Give me 2 minutes. Above them, the first Terran dropships began their descent through Kalos Prime's atmosphere. They moved like silver bullets, too fast for the remaining orbital defenses to target effectively. Captain Ryu Sung-ho's voice crackled over military frequencies as he coordinated the assault. Phoenix Team, target the command tower. Dragon Team, secure the main gate. Tiger Team, you're with me. We're going straight to the mines to extract our man. The prison's defense systems tried to engage the incoming ships, but found their targeting computers malfunctioning. Weapons that should have fired automatically remained silent. Shield generators that should have protected critical areas shut down without explanation. In orbit, the Incheon's Fury maintained position like a watching guardian. The massive battleship's weapons remained powered but unfired. A clear message that this was a rescue operation, not an invasion. But the ship's presence alone was enough to keep the remaining Velnar fleet at a safe distance. Tae-ho, Naray's voice spoke privately through his hidden communicator. I'm reading your vitals. You're uninjured but showing signs of exhaustion. How long can you maintain operational effectiveness? As long as necessary, he replied quietly. How's the extraction timeline? Captain Ryu will reach your position in 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Commander Park Jin-woo has orbital bombardment standing by to clear any obstacles. But there's a complication. The warden has So-young, confirmed. She's being held in the main tower, level 47. Gorth is using her as leverage. Tae-ho's expression hardened. During his months in the prison, he had grown protective of the other human prisoners. So-young especially. Her kindness and courage reminded him of what they were all fighting to protect. I'm going after her. Negative, Commander. Too risky. We can extract you and deal with the hostage situation afterward. She's not just a hostage, Naray. She's our people. We don't leave our people behind. There was a pause. When Naray spoke again, her voice carried the warmth of someone who had once been human. who understood what drove people like Taeho to impossible acts of courage. Understood. I'll provide support. But be careful. Some things are more important than the mission. Some things are the mission. The lights went out throughout the prison complex as Taeho's hidden devices activated simultaneously. Emergency power kicked in seconds later, but those few moments of darkness were enough. Prisoners began moving through corridors they had memorized during months of careful planning. Guards rushed to their stations but found their equipment mysteriously malfunctioning. Taeho moved through the chaos like a ghost, using maintenance tunnels and service corridors he had mapped during his repair work. Other prisoners watched in amazement as their quiet mechanic revealed himself to be something far more dangerous. Kang Jiwon caught up with him at a junction between levels. "Commander, let me come with you. I know the layout of the upper levels. Your job is to help get the others to safety. Captain Ryu's team will need guides when they arrive. But So Young, we'll be fine. I don't fail missions, Jiwon. Not ever." The pilot nodded, understanding that she was looking at someone who had never learned to accept defeat. "Good hunting, sir." As Taeho disappeared into the upper levels of the complex, the first Terran dropship smashed through the prison's outer defenses. Special Forces soldiers in powered armor stormed the facility with overwhelming firepower and perfect coordination. Major Song Hyun-woo led the assault on the main complex while Lieutenant Kim Bo-ra coordinated with the escaped prisoners. The aliens who had once thought humans were primitive insects now faced soldiers equipped with the most advanced military technology in the galaxy. In the communication center, Velnar officers watched their carefully planned defenses crumble in minutes. The humans fought with a combination of technological superiority and tactical brilliance that left the defenders stunned and demoralized. "How is this possible?" one officer gasped as he watched human soldiers move through their facility like they owned it. His commander, a veteran of many battles against human forces, answered grimly. "Because we never understood what we were fighting. We thought they were like us, conquerors seeking territory and resources. But they're not. They're pack hunters, and we just threatened their pack." High in the tower, Warden Gorth heard the sounds of battle growing closer. His greatest prize was about to become his destruction. But he still had one card to play: the life of Han So-young, and the hope that even the legendary Phantom 7 would value an innocent life over completing his mission. The alarm bells screamed through the small transport ship as red laser fire lit up the darkness of space. Kim Taeho gripped the metal bench as the ship shook violently around him. Through the small window, he could see the massive Velnar warships closing in like hungry predators. "Everyone stay calm," shouted Park Yoonji from across the passenger area. The diplomat's voice was steady, but Taeho could see the fear in her eyes. She had been trying to negotiate peace between humans and the Velnar Empire when everything went wrong. The ship's captain, a nervous man from the outer colonies, spoke over the intercom with a shaking voice. "This is Captain Morrison to all passengers. We are being boarded by Velnar forces. Do not resist. I repeat, do not resist." Taeho looked around at the other passengers. There was Lee Dongwoo, an engineer who had been traveling to fix mining equipment on Kepler Station. Next to him sat an alien trader with blue skin and 4 arms, trembling as he clutched a small bag. In the corner, a young woman held her child close to her chest. The transport ship shuddered as the Velnar vessels locked onto it with their tractor beams. Through the walls, Taeho could hear the heavy footsteps of boarding parties cutting through the hull. The sound of metal being torn apart echoed through the ship like thunder. Taeho wore simple work clothes, dirty coveralls with oil stains and worn boots. His hands looked like those of a mechanic, with calluses and small scars from years of working with tools. To anyone looking at him, he was just another working man trying to get from one planet to another. The first Velnar soldier burst through the passenger area door. The alien stood nearly 8 feet tall with gray skin that looked like stone and yellow eyes that glowed in the dim light. Its armor was black and covered with spikes. Behind it came more soldiers, all carrying energy weapons that hummed with deadly power. "All beings will remain seated," the lead soldier barked in broken English. "Any movement will result in immediate death." The alien trader started crying, making strange whistling sounds. The woman with the child whimpered and tried to make herself smaller. Even Lee Dongwoo, who had served in the colonial militia, looked terrified. But Tejo just sat quietly, watching everything with calm eyes. He noticed how the soldiers moved, where they placed their weapons, and how they communicated with each other using hand signals. His mind was like a computer, recording every detail. Commander Vextal entered the passenger area. He was different from the soldiers, taller, with silver markings on his armor that showed his rank. His yellow eyes scanned the prisoners like he was counting livestock. "Humans," he said with disgust in his voice. "Your kind never learns. You keep trying to expand into space that belongs to the Velnar Empire." Park Yunji stood up slowly, keeping her hands visible. "Commander, I am a diplomatic representative of the Terran Federation. These are civilian passengers. Under galactic law, you cannot—" Vextal struck her across the face with the back of his hand. The blow sent her crashing into the wall. "There is no galactic law for humans. You are insects that have learned to fly between stars, nothing more." Tejo's jaw tightened as he watched Yunji struggle to stand. Blood ran down her face from where Vextal's claws had cut her cheek, but he remained seated, keeping his expression neutral. The soldiers began processing the prisoners. They stripped away personal belongings, scanning each person with strange devices that beeped and flashed. When they reached Tejo, he stood up without being asked. "Name," demanded the soldier holding the scanner. "Kim Tejo," he replied in a quiet voice. "Occupation: mechanic. I fix machines." The soldier looked at his dirty coveralls and oil-stained hands. "Another worthless human laborer," he muttered, stamping a number on Tejo's forehead. "Prisoner 4471. As they were herded toward the Velnar ship, Tejo heard the soldiers talking among themselves. They spoke in their own language, but he understood every word. They were discussing which prisoners might be valuable, and which ones should be sent to the worst work camps. The Velnar transport ship was huge and dark inside. The walls were black, metal covered with strange symbols that seemed to glow with their own light. The air smelled like chemicals and fear. Hundreds of prisoners from different species were crammed into cargo holds, sitting on metal floors with barely any room to move. Tejo found himself near Yunji and Li Dongwu. The diplomat's face was swollen where Vextal had hit her, but her eyes still burned with anger and determination. "They're taking us to Kalos Prime," she whispered. "I heard the guards talking. It's their main prison world." Li Dongwu leaned closer. "I've heard stories about that place. No one comes back from Kalos Prime." "Everyone comes back from somewhere," Tejo said quietly. "You just have to wait for the right moment." During the long journey through space, the prisoners shared what little food and water the guards gave them. Tejo listened to their stories. Some were civilians caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Others were soldiers captured during border skirmishes. A few were spies and smugglers who had been betraying both sides. But Tejo said very little about himself. When people asked where he came from, he just said he grew up on a mining colony. When they asked about his family, he said they were all gone. The other prisoners began to think of him as just another broken man who had lost everything to the war. At night, when the ship was quiet except for the hum of engines, Tejo would close his eyes and appear to sleep. But he was actually listening to every sound, mapping the ship's layout in his mind and counting the number of guards and their patrol patterns. The Velnar crew thought they had captured a ship full of helpless civilians. They laughed about how easy it had been to defeat the humans' pathetic defenses. They made jokes about selling the prisoners as slaves or working them to death in the mines. But sometimes, late at night, strange things happened on the ship. Lights would flicker in patterns that seemed almost like signals. Computer systems would have small glitches that the alien technicians couldn't explain. And deep in the ship's communication array, tiny changes were being made to signal frequencies and transmission codes. The Velnar never noticed these small problems. They were too busy celebrating their victory over the humans and planning how to use their new prisoners. They had no idea that among their captives sat someone who was far more dangerous than they could imagine. As the prison world of Kalos Prime grew larger in the viewports, Tejo looked out at the gray, lifeless planet and smiled very slightly. Soon he thought the real work would begin. The prison transport landed on Callus Prime with a bone-jarring crash. Through the small windows, Kim Tae-ho could see a world of gray rock and red dust under a dark purple sky. Massive towers rose from the planet's surface like black teeth, connected by bridges and tunnels that disappeared into the ground. The doors opened with a hiss, and hot, dry air flooded into the transport. It smelled like metal and burning chemicals. The guards shouted orders in their harsh language as they forced the prisoners out onto a platform made of black stone. Tae-ho stayed close to Park Yoon-ji and Lee Dong-woo as they were pushed into long lines. Around them, hundreds of other prisoners from dozens of different species stood waiting to be processed. Some had been here for years. He could tell by their thin bodies and empty eyes. The processing center was a huge building with no windows. Inside, alien guards separated prisoners into different groups. Families were torn apart. The strong were sent one way, the weak another. Nobody explained the rules, but everyone understood that their lives now belonged to the Velnar Empire. A massive alien guard pointed at Tae-ho and several other humans. This guard was different from the Velnar, shorter but much more muscular, with thick gray skin covered in scars. These were Kaltors, the Empire's favored enforcers. They enjoyed causing pain. "You work in the mines," the Kaltor guard growled in broken English. "You dig until you die." Tae-ho was assigned to Mining Section 7 along with a dozen other prisoners. Among them was Choi Min-ho, a man about Tae-ho's age with the bearing of a soldier. His clothes were torn and dirty, but he still stood straight and kept his eyes alert. That first night in the barracks, Min-ho sat down next to Tae-ho on the hard metal bunk. "You were on that transport from the Kepler sector," he said quietly. "I saw you watching everything during the journey." "Just trying to stay alive," Tae-ho replied, keeping his voice low. "Same as everyone else." "Maybe. But most people don't watch guards the way you do. They look at their feet or at the walls. You study patterns." Min-ho's eyes were sharp despite his exhausted appearance. "I was a Marine. Captured during the fighting at Proxima Station. What's your story?" "Mechanic. Fixed machines on mining ships until the war came to my system." Min-ho nodded but didn't look entirely convinced. "Well, mechanic, you're going to need those skills down in the mines. The equipment here is old and breaks down constantly. Guards don't like it when production stops." The next morning, Tae-ho got his first look at the mining operation. Deep underground, massive machines carved tunnels through solid rock searching for rare minerals that powered Velnar technology. The air was thick with dust that made breathing difficult. The noise was so loud that guards had to use hand signals to communicate. Tae-ho was assigned to maintain the drilling equipment. The other prisoners expected him to struggle with the alien technology, but within hours he had figured out how the machines worked. When a massive drill stopped functioning, the Kaltor supervisor was ready to beat the entire work crew for the delay. "Wait," Tae-ho said, stepping forward. "I can fix it." The Kaltor guard looked at him with suspicion. "Human cannot understand Velnar engineering. Let me try. If I fail, you can beat me instead of everyone else." The guard considered this. More pain for him, less work for the others? He nodded. Tae-ho studied the drilling machine for several minutes, tracing power lines and checking connection points. The other prisoners watched nervously. Even the alien technicians gathered around, curious to see the human fail. But Tae-ho didn't fail. He found the problem, a damaged circuit that was causing power fluctuations, and repaired it using spare parts from other broken machines. Within an hour, the drill was working better than it had in months. The Kaltor supervisor was amazed and angry at the same time. The human had succeeded where alien experts had failed. But increased production meant rewards from his superiors, so he decided to keep Tae-ho alive. Word of the human's mechanical skills spread quickly through the prison. Other supervisors began requesting Tae-ho's help with broken equipment. He always found ways to fix things, often improving their performance in the process. But Tae-ho never took credit for being clever. He always acted humble and grateful for the chance to work. "Just lucky," he would say. "Must have seen something similar before." During breaks between shifts, he began to learn about the other prisoners. There was Kang Ji-won, a young pilot who had been shot down during a reconnaissance mission. She was eager to fight back and frustrated by the lack of action. "We should be planning an escape," she whispered during meals. "Not just accepting this. Escape to where?" asked another prisoner. We're on a prison planet in the middle of Velnar space. Even if we got out of these tunnels, where would we go? Tejo listened to these conversations but rarely joined them. Instead, he spent his time studying the prison's layout, memorizing guard rotations and learning about the facility's security systems. Every time he repaired a machine, he learned something new about how the prison operated. Warden Gorth noticed the unusual human after a few weeks. The Velnar administrator was known throughout the prison for his cruelty. He enjoyed breaking prisoners' spirits through psychological torture as much as physical punishment. "Bring me the human who fixes machines," Gorth ordered his guards. Tejo was dragged from the mines and brought to the warden's office high in the main tower. The room was decorated with weapons and armor taken from defeated enemies. Human military badges and medals were displayed like hunting trophies. Gorth was tall even for a Velnar, with silver-white skin and eyes like black holes. Scars covered his arms from battles he had won. When he spoke, his voice sounded like grinding metal. "You are unusual for a human," he said, walking around Tejo like a predator circling prey. "Most of your kind break within days. But you seem comfortable here." "I just try to stay useful, Warden. Useful prisoners live longer." "Yes, they do. But I wonder what you are really thinking behind those quiet eyes. Are you planning something? Waiting for rescue? Dreaming of revenge?" Tejo met the warden's gaze without flinching. "I'm thinking about staying alive until tomorrow. That's all any of us can do." Gorth studied him for a long moment. "Perhaps, but I will be watching you, human. If you are hiding something, I will find it. And when I do, your death will be a lesson that echoes through every cell in this prison." That night, as Tejo lay on his bunk, strange things began happening throughout the prison complex. Communication systems experienced brief interruptions. Security cameras developed blind spots that lasted just long enough for a person to move between them. Power fluctuations affected different sections at random times. The Velnar technicians blamed the problems on the age of the equipment and the harsh environment. They never suspected that someone was gradually learning to manipulate their systems from the inside. Minho noticed that Tejo always seemed to know when the power was about to fail, or when guards would change their patrol routes. "You have good instincts for a mechanic," he observed. "Working with machines teaches you to notice patterns," Tejo replied. "Everything has a rhythm, even this place." As the weeks passed, Tejo quietly built relationships with key prisoners throughout the complex. He helped an alien medic repair medical equipment, earning the trust of someone who knew about the prison's layout. He fixed a communication device for a former intelligence officer, learning about Velnar security protocols. To the guards, he was just the useful human who kept their machines running. But slowly, carefully, Kim Tejo was building something much more dangerous than anyone realized. 3 months into his imprisonment, Kim Tejo had become the most valuable maintenance worker in the entire prison complex. His reputation for fixing impossible problems had spread to every section of Kalos Prime. Guards who once ignored him now sought his help when their equipment failed. But Warden Gorth remained suspicious. The cruel Velnar administrator had built his career on breaking prisoners, and Tejo's calm acceptance bothered him. Most humans either collapsed into despair or burned themselves out with futile rage. This one just quietly worked and watched. "Bring me Han So Young," Gorth ordered his guards one morning, the human medic from Section 12. So Young was a young woman who had been captured while treating wounded civilians on a border world. She had been working in the prison's medical bay, helping prisoners who got injured in the mines. Her gentle nature and healing skills had made her beloved among the prisoner population. When the guards dragged her into Gorth's office, her eyes were wide with fear, but her chin remained raised in defiance. She had seen too much suffering to be completely broken by threats. "This human has something I want," Gorth said to his assembled guards. "Send word through the prison. If the mechanic Kim Tejo has any secrets, he will share them with me. Or this young female will pay the price for his silence." The message reached Tejo while he was deep in the mines, repairing a massive excavation machine. Choi Min-ho delivered the news with grim urgency. "They have So Young in the warden's office. Word is that Gorth thinks you're hiding something. He wants answers or he'll make an example of her." Tejo's hands never stopped working on the machine, but Min-ho could see the tension in his shoulders. "What could I possibly be hiding? I'm just a mechanic." "That's what I've been wondering too," Min-ho said quietly. Because mechanics don't usually know 17 different ways to disable security cameras without leaving evidence. They don't memorize guard patrol schedules down to the minute, and they don't ask the kinds of questions you've been asking about the prison's communication systems. Around them, other prisoners had gathered. Kang Ji-won, the captured pilot, spoke first. "Whatever you really are, we don't care. But So Young doesn't deserve to die for your secrets." Lee Dong-woo nodded. "She's saved a dozen lives since we've been here. If Gorth kills her, it's on all of us." Tae-ho finally stopped working and looked at the faces around him. These people had become his responsibility, whether he wanted it or not. The mission parameters had changed. In Gorth's office, high above the mines, the warden was enjoying his psychological torture. So Young knelt on the floor with a Kaltur guard's weapon pointed at her head. Through the windows, she could see the gray wasteland of Kalos Prime stretching to the horizon. "Your friend the mechanic is taking his time," Gorth observed. "Perhaps he does not value your life as much as you think." "Tae-ho will come," So Young said with quiet certainty. "He won't let you hurt me. We shall see. But when he arrives, I will break him completely. I will learn all his secrets, and then I will kill you both slowly while the entire prison watches." Minutes passed in tense silence. Then an alarm began sounding throughout the complex. Gorth's communication device crackled to life with panicked reports from his guards. "Warden, massive energy signatures detected in orbit. Unknown ships dropping out of hyperspace."
"Sir, these readings..."
"They're off the charts." Gorth moved to his observation window and looked up at the purple sky. At first he saw nothing but the usual emptiness of space. Then the stars began to change. Points of light that had been constant for millions of years started moving, growing larger and brighter. The first ship that became visible was so large it blocked out a section of the sky. It was shaped like a spear made of black metal and white light, with weapon ports that glowed like angry eyes. Behind it came more ships, dozens of them, all displaying the distinctive red and blue markings of the Terran Federation. "Impossible," Gorth whispered. "This sector is deep in Velnar space. How did human ships get here without being detected?" His communication officer's voice was tight with fear. "Warden, we're receiving a transmission from the lead vessel. It's identifying itself as the TFS Incheon's Fury." Gorth's blood turned cold. Every military commander in the galaxy knew that name. The Incheon's Fury was Admiral Yu Jae-sung's flagship, the most advanced and dangerous warship humanity had ever built. But intelligence reports said it had been destroyed months ago in a battle near the Centauri system. "Put the transmission through to all speakers," Gorth ordered, his voice barely steady. The voice that filled the air was distinctly human and female, speaking with the authority of someone accustomed to commanding vast fleets. But there was something strange about it, an electronic quality that suggested advanced artificial intelligence. "This is the TFS Incheon's Fury to Kalos Prime Detention Facility. I am Dr. Shin Naray, integrated AI of this vessel. You are currently holding Commander Kim Tae-ho of Terran Special Operations. Designation Phantom 7. Return him immediately, or this facility will be reduced to atoms." The words hit Gorth like a physical blow. His prisoner, the quiet mechanic who fixed mining equipment, was actually one of the most elite and dangerous operatives in human space. The Phantom Division was legendary. Soldiers who could infiltrate any target, destroy entire enemy bases single-handedly, and disappear like ghosts. In the mines below, prisoners stopped work as the announcement echoed through every tunnel and chamber. Choi Min-ho looked at Tae-ho with new understanding. "Commander," he said quietly. Tae-ho's entire demeanor changed in an instant. The humble, quiet mechanic was gone, replaced by someone who radiated lethal competence. His eyes became sharp and calculating. His posture shifted to that of a predator ready to strike. "How long until the ground assault begins?" asked Kang Ji-won, suddenly understanding why this man had seemed so different. 12 minutes, Tae-ho replied without hesitation, as if he had been counting down in his head all along. "Captain Ryu Sung-ho will hit the main gates with the first wave. Commander Park Jin-woo will target the guard towers with orbital strikes." The artificial intelligence of the Incheon's Fury continued broadcasting. "I have been tracking Commander Tae-ho's biological signature since his capture. Every move you have made, every location you have taken him, has been recorded and analyzed. The entire Phantom Division has been mobilized for his extraction." Above the prison, more ships continued to appear. Sleek destroyers moved into bombardment positions while heavily armed transports prepared to deploy ground forces. The space around Kalos Prime, which had been empty moments before, now teemed with human warships. In his office, Gorth realized the magnitude of his error. He had not captured a simple prisoner. He had taken hostage one of humanity's most valuable military assets. And now the most advanced fleet in human space had come to collect him. The Warden's communication system erupted with desperate calls from orbital defense platforms as they tried to engage the human fleet. But their weapons seemed to have no effect. The Terran ships moved with impossible precision, destroying defensive installations with surgical strikes while avoiding any damage to the prison complex itself. "They're not trying to destroy the prison," one of Gorth's officers reported in amazement. "They're clearing a path for extraction." Down in the mines, Tejo was no longer pretending to be anyone other than what he truly was. "Listen carefully," he told the gathered prisoners. "In 8 minutes, Terran Special Forces will breach the main complex. When that happens, stay low and follow my orders exactly. Anyone who wants to see home again will do what I say without question." The transformation was complete. The aliens had thought they captured a helpless human mechanic. Instead, they had invited one of the most dangerous predators in the galaxy into their most secure facility. And now his pack had come to get him back. Kim Tejo moved through the upper levels of the prison tower like a predator in his natural habitat. Every corridor, every security checkpoint, every guard rotation had been memorized during his months of seemingly innocent maintenance work. What the Velnar had seen as helpful, prisoner labor had actually been the most thorough reconnaissance mission of his career. The sound of battle echoed from below as Captain Ryu, Seung-ho's assault team, swept through the complex. But Tejo moved in silence, using service passages and maintenance shafts that bypassed the main fighting. His target was clear: Level 47, where Warden Gorth held Han So-young hostage. In the Warden's office, Gorth paced like a caged animal. Through his windows, he could see Terran dropships landing throughout the complex, disgorging soldiers in advanced combat armor. His forces were being systematically destroyed by what he had once dismissed as an inferior species. "Status report," he barked into his communicator. "Sections 1 through 15 have fallen to human forces," came the panicked reply. "They're moving with perfect coordination. It's like they know our entire facility layout." Gorth looked down at So-young, who knelt on the floor with her hands bound but her eyes defiant. "Because they do know it. Your friend has been planning this for months." "Tejo isn't just my friend," So-young said quietly. "He's family. And family doesn't abandon family. Then he will die trying to save you, and I will have the satisfaction of killing the famous Phantom 7 with my own hands." The lights in the office flickered, then dimmed to emergency power. Through the building's communication system, Dr. Shin Naray's voice spoke with calm authority. "Warden Gorth, your facility has been compromised at every level. Your orbital defenses are neutralized. Your ground forces are defeated. Surrender now and you will be treated according to galactic conventions." "Never," Gorth snarled. "I have your precious commander's friend. He will come for her, and when he does..." The Warden's words were cut off as the office door exploded inward. Not from weapons fire or explosives, but from a carefully placed charge that disabled the locking mechanism while leaving the occupants unharmed. Kim Tejo stepped through the smoke like death itself. He no longer looked anything like the humble mechanic who had been captured months earlier. His movements were fluid and precise, his eyes calculating distances and angles with mechanical accuracy. In his hands were weapons he had somehow acquired during his journey through the tower. "Let her go, Gorth," Tejo said, his voice carrying the absolute certainty of someone who had never failed a mission. The Velnar Warden raised his weapon to So-young's head. "One more step and she dies." "You're going to kill her anyway. That's your nature. But here's what you don't understand about mine." Tejo moved slightly to the left, drawing Gorth's attention and aim away from So-young. "I've been inside your facility for 3 months. I know every guard, every weapon, every weak point. I know you have 17 rounds left in that weapon and your backup sidearm hasn't been cleaned properly in weeks. How could you possibly? Because I watch everything, and I planned for everything, including this." The lights went out completely as Naray's consciousness triggered a localized power failure. In the darkness, Tejo moved. Years of training and months of preparation culminated in 3 seconds of perfect violence. When the emergency lights came back on, Gorth was on the floor, unconscious but alive. His weapons lay broken and useless. So-young was free, checking her bonds with hands that shook from relief rather than fear. "Are you hurt?" Teho asked, his voice gentle again as he helped her stand. No, but Teho, Commander, why didn't you tell us who you really were? Because the mission required it. And because you all needed to believe I was just another prisoner. If you had known the truth, you might have acted differently. The guards might have noticed. From the corridor outside came the sound of running feet and military equipment. Captain Ryu Sung-ho appeared in the doorway with a squad of Terran Special Forces, their armor scarred from the fighting below. Commander Tai-ho, Ryu said with visible relief. Good to see you in one piece. Status report, Captain. Facility secured. All human prisoners extracted safely. Minimal casualties on our side. The Velnar garrison has surrendered. Teho nodded, then activated his communicator. Nare, this is Phantom 7, mission complete. All our people are safe. The AI's voice came through with what could only be described as happiness. Welcome back, Teho. Admiral Yu is standing by for debriefing, but first, there's something you need to see. The group made their way to the main communication center, where large screens showed the space around Kalos Prime. What they saw there made even the battle-hardened Special Forces soldiers gasp in amazement. The Terran fleet that had seemed large before was revealed to be just the tip of an enormous force. Hundreds of ships were now visible, not just human vessels, but warships from dozens of species that had been oppressed by the Velnar Empire. Your extraction mission was the signal, Nare explained. Every enslaved world, every conquered people, every species forced to serve the Velnar has been waiting for proof that someone was willing to fight back. When word spreads that humanity successfully extracted prisoners from Kalos Prime, rebellions will begin across the entire empire. Admiral Yu Jae-sung's image appeared on the screen, his weathered face showing pride and satisfaction. Commander Teho, congratulations on a mission perfectly executed. Your intelligence gathering has provided us with complete data on 17 more prison facilities across Velnar space. Sir, there are thousands of prisoners still being held, yes, which is why this is just the beginning. The Velnar Empire made a fundamental error when they started capturing humans. They thought they were taking prisoners. Instead, they were teaching us exactly where to find them. Through the facility's external cameras, they could see Terran transports loading the last of the freed prisoners. Among them were humans who had been captured during various operations, but also aliens from species that had been fighting the Velnar for decades. Choi Min-ho, Lee Dong-woo, Kang Ji-won, and dozens of others looked up at the tower, where their quiet mechanic had revealed himself to be one of the most dangerous individuals in the galaxy. They were no longer prisoners, but witnesses to something that would change the balance of power in their region of space. There's one more thing, Narai said privately to Teho. The intelligence you gathered didn't just identify prison locations. You found their entire command and control network. Every major military installation, every supply depot, every weakness in their empire. Teho looked out at the assembled fleet and smiled slightly. Good, because this was never just about rescuing prisoners. No, Nare agreed. This was about teaching the galaxy that humanity protects its own, and that anyone who threatens our people will face consequences they never imagined. As the TFS Incheon's Fury prepared to jump to hyperspace with its rescued passengers, a final message was broadcast across all Velnar communication networks. It was simple, direct, and delivered in the voice of Dr. Shin Narai, a human consciousness speaking from within humanity's most advanced warship. To every Velnar commander, every prison warden, every guard who has taken human prisoners, we know where you are. We know your weaknesses, and we are coming for our people. The battleship knows his name, and we know yours. The message was accompanied by detailed intelligence files on dozens of Velnar facilities, proving that humanity had been systematically infiltrating their empire for months. What the aliens had thought was random human expansion had actually been the most comprehensive intelligence operation in galactic history. As they jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind a liberated Kalos Prime and a galaxy that would never again underestimate humanity, Teho reflected on the mission's true scope. The Velnar Empire had thought they were capturing a simple mechanic. Instead, they had given one of humanity's best operatives 3 months of unrestricted access to their most secure facilities. Now the real war could begin.